Chapter 16 English Language Learners, ELLs, and Social Studies. This chapter hits hard and dear to me. I was born in Mexico and raised in Florida. I was in ESOL till 3rd grade, and let me tell you, the school that I was at did not have the appropriate resources for the ELLs. Reading this chapter really got me thinking about how roles would be reversed if Americans were to go to other countries. But first, we will talk about ELLs in the U.S. I teach in a non-traditional classroom, a volleyball court. I have a player that just got to Florida from Puerto Rico and did not attend a private school while back in Puerto Rico, where it is required to learn English. I will be showing you what most bad coaches would do when they do not speak the same language as the players they are coaching. We will be using Christian as the ELL in this video. He is the only male player on this team for your viewing purposes.
You serve versus passing. Alright, so how do you do when you pass, you know that has to be served. As soon as you serve, you're going to pass. After you pass, you're going to target you're going to come to service. Okay? You got what we did? Alright, go.
As you just saw, the coach gave the team directions in English, but poor Christian did not understand the coach and did what most teachers do: send their kids to the back of the classroom to do work that does not really help the student or player out in any way. Here is what the coach should do: go step by step and try to either explain with body gestures or break down the skill to show what you want done in the drill. Also, pairing them up with someone that speaks the same language as them will work as well. Here's an example of having someone else that might speak the same language as them help them out and just translate what you want them to do. Even though the coach may not know what Christian is saying, he knows what he means by his body gestures and also head nods.
Yeah.
Christian is a good example of just because they might not understand what you're saying does not mean they do not know how to play, or as in many of your cases in your own classrooms, know the material you are going over and teaching them. Next, we will be listening to Kyle Friend, who is a professional volleyball player that went to Europe to play, and some of the challenges that he faced. You played?
Yeah. Okay, so my first year playing pro was 2011. I played in Germany, in northern Germany, right by Hanover. And it was my first year outside of the country, my first time in Europe. I didn't know how to get around. I didn't know where I was most of the time in the beginning. I remember starting my trip in Italy, and then making my way to Germany and having to take 7 different trains, 10 hours in one day, trying to figure out my way to get to this club. But my first year, my coach didn't speak any English. He was a Russian coach, but lived in Germany, spoke German. And so the communication with my coach was very difficult throughout the year. There was a lack of coach-player communication relationship. The relationship with my coach had like anything I had experienced before. Luckily, my teammates were able to translate what he said to me, or if he needed to coach me, they would always tell me what he said because I didn't understand any German. So I used them, my teammates, as like a barrier, or as like a connector, along to get better with my coach. So some of the challenges that I first encountered, obviously, was the language, was trying to communicate, to get food, really. You know, you need to eat, you need to sleep, and you need to rest, and food was important. So of course, your first goal is to get food ordered correctly, and pointing at the menu, hopefully they have translated menus, going to grocery stores, using your eyes, using your nose to see what food is, because you don't know what the name of this is. It looks familiar, but it might not be the same. So you're trying to use what you know from home and translate that into another country. And yeah, there's some differences, and the food isn't in the right language, but you get by, and you ask for help, and you point and you use body language. But food is something that you learn the quickest. Every country I've played in is I learned how to say foods and how to read different foods in different languages, because it's the most important. Getting around town also difficult, not knowing where you are. If you don't have your GPS on you, in the beginning it's difficult. You don't know the streets. Everyone drives differently in Europe. The small cities are crazy to drive in. I mean, the big cities are crazy to drive in. Drivers choose their own lanes sometimes. You don't know what turn is what. So that's also a real big challenge. Adapting to the lifestyle as well. Trying to manage 2 practices a day, cooking for yourself, coordinating with team and for meetings and practices and events and games. It's just, you're on call all the time, and you're busy, so it was a challenge. So before every match, of course, we meet in the locker room to have a team chat, a scouting report, a review to go over what team we're playing, what strategy we want to play, what tactics we want to use. And so the hardest part about my transitioning into professional volleyball, especially as a first time, was having to try to understand what coach really wanted, but only getting 80% of what he said because of the translation and the language barrier. So we would sit in the locker room. I would sit with our German libero, who spoke the best English, and as our coach would speak for 20 minutes, he would summarize and give me cliff notes for those 20 minutes as best he could to let me know what the plan was with his team, what the plan was for us. And then in the match, if he needed to say something to me, he would scream it, and our libero would relay it to me. And if he yelled at me, and I had no idea what he was saying, so it was easy to move on to the next play.